Hi there, this is Jonathan Ginsberg, and today I'd like to talk to you about the way I approach a case involving dementia or early onset Alzheimer's disease. And I've seen more and more of these cases over the last couple of years, individuals, men and women, for some reason mostly women, in their 50s who are coming down with symptoms that problems with memory, problems with focus and concentration, emotional instability, that have been diagnosed as early onset Alzheimer's or forms of dementia. And it's obviously very upsetting to these people and their families, and I really feel for them. And obviously when they apply for disability, it's a pretty devastating idea of having to say to a stranger, whether it's me or a Social Security judge, that I'm disabled, I can't focus and think anymore, when just a couple of years before they had been a very productive and fulfilled person. So I certainly understand how difficult that can be. But again, Social Security is there for you or your loved one if you can no longer function in a work environment because of what has been diagnosed as early onset Alzheimer's or dementia. And I think the way I approach these cases, I primarily look at the specific limitations that arise from this diagnosis. And really the way when I get to a hearing, here's kind of how I look at it. First of all, I always make sure my client describes his or her work career, because a lot of these people that I'm dealing with have had long and productive and successful work careers, executives and so forth, and I want the judge to understand that nobody's going to leave a six-figure job or a fulfilling supervisory job, or any job for that matter, to collect $1,500 or $2,000 a month from Social Security. So I want to make sure the judge understands that this is a person who was working at a very fulfilling job and can no longer do so. So I definitely want to do that. And then either through my client's testimony or the testimony of a spouse or a child or even a good friend, I'll go into an elicit testimony about problems with memory, since that's obviously the biggest issue. And typically what I find is that people with dementia or early onset Alzheimer's may have good long-term memory, but their short-term memory is the problem. And I'll get testimony where either the client or a witness, and again this is a type of case where I'm more likely to use a witness, will talk about, I may tell my wife, for example, I come in and I tell her something about what happened in the day, and she'll ask me the same questions 5 times, or I'll find that she puts her keys down and can't remember where they are. This happens all the time. Or I'll get a panicked phone call in the middle of the day, where am I, when clearly she knows I'm at work, and I've done the same routine day after day after day. So I really want to show that the short-term memory has been impacted, and not just short-term memory, but that it's causing some emotional trauma as well. And speaking of that, I think that one of the big issues with early onset Alzheimer's is emotional stability. A lot of my clients experience crying spells where they just become so despondent over not being able to remember, but they understand what's going on, but they have these crying spells. Again, an element of depression. I think that anytime there's damage to the brain structure itself, it's not unusual for there to be depression from an organic cause, from a physical damage to the brain cause. So I think I want to focus on that. Inability to function in a work setting, and really what I'm getting at, I guess, is just confusion. I mean, I say sometimes to a client, well, what if I said to you, here's a job where you're sitting at a table and you're taking small items and you're putting them in a box day after day after day. And my clients will say, well, I could do that for a while, but then I would just forget how many I'm counting. I mean, if I'm supposed to put 25 in a box, I'd forget, and I might put 30 in the box. So try to get testimony about even something simple and repetitive. There's still a certain number you have to do, or a certain way you've got to do it, and that this a person, a claimant with dementia, might have trouble even following simple directions. Maybe they could do it for an hour or two, or 15 or 20 minutes, but then after extended period of time or after taking a break, they would come back and really not remember how to do it at all. Confusion obviously is a thing. Folks who are dealing with dementia oftentimes get very confused, especially in a new environment or a changed environment, even in a work setting where they may get confused about which room to go in or where the bathroom is, or where they're supposed to sit, and they get very upset by not being able to remember because they know they should know this, but they just simply can't. And so that confusion, again, leads to the instability emotionally. And I think that another big factor that usually is helpful to judges is when clients talk about, or their loved ones talk about, the inconsistency in mood stability or functioning day to day. Somebody with dementia may have a good day or 2 good days, but then the third day could be a really bad day. So in one hand, a person could maybe function, let's say in a home environment, could cook a meal, could clean the house and do just fine, but then the next day could be completely out of sorts, not know where he or she is, and not remember how to do something very, very simple. And I think that when you see with early onset Alzheimer's, that inconsistency is a real issue. And in terms of Social Security, the lack of consistency can be a problem. Generally, I'm going to approach these cases as a functional capacity problem, meaning that my client's capacity to perform reliably has been so diminished or eroded by the symptoms or even the medications, side effects of medications, that such a person could not work. There is a listing in the Social Security listings for organic brain damage, but I find most judges are not going to look at that. They may consider it, but for the most part, Alzheimer's cases are decided on functional capacity for the most part, and so we're going to argue, again, about emotional stability, inability to react to changes in the work site, need to take unscheduled breaks, excessive absences, things like that, just really reliability and acting in an emotionally stable manner. And that's really the main focus I think I have in a early onset Alzheimer's or dementia case. And again, judges typically are pretty receptive. They understand that for the most part, people in these situations are not going to get better. The situation is only going to get worse. And again, most of my clients in these cases have had a long and productive work career, and judges recognize that they're not going to just stop working to try to collect a few dollars from Social Security. So there's a pretty good chance that you'll get a favorable decision if the medical is supportive and if the symptoms are at a level of severity enough to cause some of the problems I've discussed. So I hope this has been helpful in discussing how I approach a dementia or early onset Alzheimer's case. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to call me or email me, and I'm happy to answer whatever questions you may have. Again, this is Jonathan Ginsberg. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll talk to you soon.